Hello and welcome to the section on Photoshop and color. So this section is one of those often overlooked subjects that a lot of people overlook, don't learn about, don't think about, or don't think that they need to learn about it. So it's not something they pursue. It's not a very popular or sexy subject. It's actually quite boring, but it can have a profound effect on your workflow, your artwork, and much more. And here's why. If I gave every one of you in this class the same exact photo and asked you to color correct it, I bet that the majority of the photos would not be exactly the same. And it's not so much because of the way that you edit. Even if I gave you step-by-step instructions on how to exactly edit the image, it still wouldn't look the same. But even then, if everybody just edited it via their own style, they wouldn't probably even be close because color correction is subjective. And that's because some photographers or artists would prefer a more warmer image, and maybe some would prefer a more cooler image. In addition to that, there are other factors that can affect how we color correct, and some of those factors can include the type of monitor you use, whether or not your monitor is calibrated, the color space you're working in, and even the environment around you can affect how you color correct. So that's why even if I gave you the exact step-by-step instructions for editing your images, if we put all those different types of monitors that we're all working on side by side, they are not going to look the same. They're all going to look different because different manufacturers manufacture their monitors based on their own specs, and they all have different specs. And over time, even the LCD panels or the lights within the monitors become old, and they do not display light and colors the same as they did when you first bought them. So over time, your monitors will become degraded, and what you see today may not be what you see a year from now or 2 years from now or 5 years from now if you keep your monitor that long. And that's part of the reason why this section is so important, because if you want to print your artwork and your monitor and the output device are not synced together and calibrated together, then you're not going to get what you see on your monitor in the print that you're trying to get back. So that's why we must first color calibrate our monitor to ensure that what we see is optimal for the monitor we have. But even then, properly calibrated monitors are still not going to look exactly the same next to a different manufacturer's monitor. And just because you calibrated the monitor doesn't mean that you're still going to get what you see on the monitor in that print, because you have to calibrate the output device and your monitor together through color profiles in order to ensure what you see is what you get. So you may be wondering, well, how do I get the perfect output from my monitor if it's different from somebody else's? Well, the goal is to have consistent color on the monitor that you're using. Then you can adjust your color corrected images based on the profile of the output device that you're using. So depending on your project, you may need to change your color profile if your output device is different from your previous project. And just like how our monitors are different from one manufacturer to another, so are our output devices. I could have an Epson in-home printer, but if I send it off to my professional lab that's using a Fuji printer that costs $200,000, I guarantee you the color profile for that machine is going to be different from my desktop printer that cost me $2,000. It's not so much the price, but they are manufactured different. Different type of media is being applied to the paper versus my in-home inkjet printer versus professional printer at a lab. So we're going to go over changing your color profile in the next lesson. But first, in this lesson, we're going to look at how we can properly calibrate our monitor, which is the first step in creating your color workflow. Now, there is a specific tool for which you can use that, which will properly help you adjust your monitor's calibration. Now, we could also do this manually without the tool. However, using the tool will do so more precisely than if we did it manually by eye, because there are too many variables when calibrating, and hardware will be much more precise versus just using our eyes. Again, it all depends on how important color is to you and the projects that you're working on. So the tool that I'm referring to is called a spider. So spiders are electro-optical measuring devices. Now these devices are not free and are something that you have to buy. So if color is important to you and your clients, then it's a small investment to ensure you have your monitor properly color profiled and calibrated. Now on average, prices range from around $100 to $250 for the basic units. Now there are different vendors that offer spiders and they are typically providing the same type of calibration. But one of the more popular spiders is by Data Color. And here's their website address, and you can also do a Google search for color display spiders to find other manufacturers. Now, some spiders can also give you a before and after of your color calibration, and some will even take your ambient light in the room that you're working in into consideration as part of the calibration, which simply means it will measure the ambient light in your room as it's calibrating to ensure that you get consistent results. Because if you calibrate your monitor with your lights off, but you edit with your lights on, then you're going to see something different versus having the lights on versus having them off. Or maybe you don't have your lights on, but you have a window in your office and you have light coming through that throughout the day. Well, the light in the afternoon is going to be different at sunset. And then if you're working at night, you're not really getting any light in. So again, what you see is being affected by that light spilling into your office and onto your monitor. All right, so to use the spider, you're simply going to attach it to your monitor and then follow along with the provided calibration software. Once you've completed all the calibration steps, you can then save that information as your monitor's color profile. Now, like I mentioned, over a period of time, your monitor's colors may shift as it gets older. Therefore, it's important to recalibrate your monitor on a regular basis. Typically, I will recalibrate my monitor once a month as part of my workflow. So, monitor calibration is a very important step in an efficient and productive color workflow. So, I highly recommend looking into purchasing a calibration system to get your monitor set up properly. All right, so in the next lesson, we're going to go over color preferences for Photoshop.